Welcome to another episode of Use It or Lose It. As usual, I am joined by the legend himself, Schalkberger. Scalla, welcome.
Thanks, Johnny.
Those that have followed the last couple of shows of Use It or Lose It, I'm going to start again.
It's not a good sign when you start like that.
Hey.
Normally you're good out the blocks. You get progressively
Why
worse.
did I want to say that? I can remember I wanted to say something, but I forgot it.
You know,
Why are you watching?
He's planned this intro.
Why are you checking the time? Okay. Hello and welcome to another episode of Use It or Lose It. It's fantastic to be here at the Red Bull offices once again. And as normal, my fellow presenter, Schalkberger. Scalla,
Thanks, Johnny.
welcome. Now, we've had a couple of rugby players on our show for the first couple of episodes, and those that have followed all of our episodes will recall that Schalk and myself played cricket together at school. We had an opening stand of, I think it has probably grown to close to 200 runs in one game. But today we are joined by someone that has scored a couple of runs in his career as well. His name is Graeme Smith. He's born in 1981. We're the same age. I know he looks a lot older than me. But he's an absolute legend of South African cricket, the youngest captain ever to captain the Proteas. Graeme, welcome.
Thanks, Johnny. Scully.
Did you like that intro?
It's very good. I was impressed with the way you delivered your message as well.
Yeah.
It's had a lot of training.
So Graeme, as mentioned, we've only had rugby players on the show. Okay, and because obviously, if you didn't, we played rugby. But we did play a bit of cricket as well. I do know that you are a massive rugby fan as well, okay? But I want to put this all into context because last year we had a World Cup, a Rugby World Cup as well. Did you watch the World Cup final? Or did you think prior to the tournament that South Africa would make the World Cup final?
To be honest with you, I was very excited about the World Cup, but never took notice of the dates, Johnny. So I know where you're going with this. I ended up getting married on Rugby World Cup final day.
Who gets married on the final day?
A South African cricketer, obviously. The final's a safe date, isn't it?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, when you look at a wedding, you're trying to plan for numbers, you know, the cost of a wedding, try and keep the numbers down. So I was planning on the box getting there and not many people arriving.
So when the date came out, Biff pushed my number, said, listen, are you committing to it? I said, listen, it's World Cup final. There's a good chance the Springboks is going to be in it.
Yeah.
And he said, do you really think the Boks are going to get to make a final? I'm like, listen, we haven't lost a game yet this year. There's a very good chance we're going to make it.
I had my wife in my ear getting all nervous about it. I mean, I think her greatest fear that everyone was going to arrive at the wedding absolutely upside down, celebrating.
And?
Well, the celebration, I think everyone who did managed to keep themselves in check until the party started. But I mean, I certainly had a few and celebrated with the box. I mean, it was amazing. Thank goodness for the time difference. 11 o'clock in the morning and getting married in the evening, it helped. But at least I'll always remember my anniversary now.
No, exactly. If someone asked me that question, you know, if I got married on the final day, I would just say that even though I absolutely love rugby, I just love my wife so much more. And she wanted that date, and that's why I decided on that date. And I know that is what you did. And I think it's very noble. It's, you know, love conquers all. I think it's beautiful, actually.
By the way, that's the fastest I've ever seen John move since retiring. Is trying to get me on the plane to make your winning, because we had to rush back. It's a bit faster he moved, apparently, when you had to help him check in.
How did I end up in the show, first of all? Has he told you that story?
You phoned me. He said, listen, what's wrong with your mate? And this is John trying to check himself into...
I'm standing at the airport. It was an early morning flight, 6 or 7, and I see this old man almost hanging on his trolley bag. He's walking like this. So I'm thinking, shame, man. That guy needs some help. And as he gets closer, I think, no, that can't be. It's Sean. He's done his back overnight or something. I literally carried his bag and him onto the plane and then managed to get him to a trolley in Joburg and hooked him onto the trolley. And he walked with the trolley.
I'm not lying when I say he's not exaggerating. It's literally like, if I didn't see Graeme there, I don't think I would have made the flight. Because the pace I was going at, I think because they were already boarding. And I mean, I just woke up that morning knowing that I have to fly, but my back was...
So are these all old rugby injuries now that are coming back to haunt you?
Yeah, I don't know how this interview has turned into you asking me the questions. I like what you did there.
When I book a 4-ball now, obviously COVID's a bit different. You're one guy per golf buggy, but I always have to book one golf buggy for this bloke. I mean, you can't go through 9 holes. Eh? Back, knee, shoulder. Okay.
Let's focus on Graeme, yeah? I want to get back to the wedding.
Okay.
So
it was a great day, fantastic day.
Of course it was. It was. And I mean, I don't feel bad that I didn't get invited. And I know that eventually you wanted me to be there, but I mean, it hurts.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. But I've just noticed over the years that you've become Mr. Supersport. So being a World Cup rugby final day, I mean, you're now leading.
So now suddenly you played.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the end, when Schalk told me that he was going to make it back, I thought, well, definitely. But then you dropped me at the last minute as well.
Yeah. Okay. Graeme, you were the youngest, or still am the youngest ever captain of the Proteas. Now, when you get to that level at the age of 22, even for us playing for the Boks at that level, or at that age, you think you're on top of the world, right? I shared some photos with you earlier about your younger days. You were captain of the Proteas, dating supermodels. You rated yourself as a bit of a model yourself, right? And we'll share these photos.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Yeah. And I thank all my friends that have kept them over the years and kept them relevant.
And we thank them.
You never get away with these things. But yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with naivety. You're right, I got lucky at some stages, but definitely not a supermodel. I think found myself as a young captain in the limelight in a position where you maybe don't realize what you're getting into sometimes. And certainly for the first 3 or 4 years, it was a little bit of that. And then suddenly, I managed to get a grip of things and stop doing it.
Before we get to the cricket part,
but cricketers have always been a bit more sort of in that
better looking,
less knocks.
Yeah, I mean, look at Schalk.
I know, look at me. I'm the youngest on this panel this evening. I look about that's what's happened when you play loose forward for the Boks. I mean, it's a bit harder. I mean, opening batsman was clearly quite an easy task for the Proteas.
But you played a bit of rugby at school as well, at Cares?
Yeah, I loved rugby. Certainly, like from the age of about 14, 15, as we are. I mean, in Joburg, English speaking, you don't really play rugby at primary school. It's more football and other sports. And then you get to high school and rugby becomes relevant. It cares certainly 14, 15, 16. But then by the age of 17, I was sort of playing professional cricket. And then always in the back of your mind, it's sort of rugby's, really physical. But to be honest with you, I had great hands, could read the play, but lacked a lot of pace at the fullback position. Really? People were running around me, and I'll never forget playing the big boys at Affies and then kick these up and unders.
So fullback, you played fullback?
Fullback. I mean, I wasn't as big and bulky as I am now back then. A little bit skinny and could move a little bit.
Yeah.
But and then I realised only 1 or 2 games for the first team. A really good second and third team player in the trick.
That's when you know you're in trouble, when a guy nicknamed Biff is jogging out at fullback against Affies. Where did the nickname come from?
It was actually Justin Kemp. I was picked for a South African A-team tour as a youngster to go to the Caribbean. So I was 18 years old and I was picked as one of the young guys to go with a whole lot of experienced provincial cricketers at the time. Couldn't ask for a better tour to the Caribbean as a young guy. So, I mean, right throughout my career, I was probably not the most elegant cricketer, It
only went through the leg side?
Not stylish in any way. So, Justin Kemp nicknamed me Buffle for Buffalo, just being big and sort of clumsy and not as agile and fluent as some other guys.
Yeah, well, it didn't end up that badly. You did all right in your cricketing career, right? Now, as a 22-year-old, you enter the Proteas setup. You're the captain of the team. We just finished the World Cup in 2003 in South Africa. Obviously that didn't end the way we wanted to. I mean, explain to us what kind of pressure goes through kind of your mind when you get that responsibility? Because I mean, both of us were captains as well, and I think it's something that you don't really say no to, but getting it later in your career is much easier than getting it straight from the start, and all the responsibility that goes with it.
I mean, as you talk about it, I can feel the nerves come back into the tension build a little bit. I mean, I remember driving up Constantia Neck when I got the call, and I actually, we know how tight that road is. I managed to find somewhere to pull over and sort of think about it as I chatted to Gerald Majula. I think it was post that. At the time, you're in it and you're a little bit excited and you don't really consider the nerves. You do your first press conference, but then all of a sudden you're 22 and you start getting all this pressure. People doubting you. Every newspaper, every ex-player, every journalist is writing an article of 22. Can you cope? Can you handle it? And kind of your first massive tours to England as well, where you're taking on all those journos in the UK, the crowds. And so I think you kind of, I can remember back to having those emotions and nerves consistently, and you're always fighting a little bit of that self-doubt. So I think the one thing that I had as a strength back then was a determination, and a will to succeed. And I think that is what I fell back on in the early days. I was very lucky inside the team that the senior players and the players gave me a chance to grow and develop, and I think I was fortunate to go and get 2 double hundreds up front, which took a lot of pressure off me.
Helps, eh?
In the first 4 years, I polarized people because the only thing I had, everywhere I went, people were taking me on. So you almost form this I'm going to show you type mentality. So when you're in front of the media or you're talking to people, that's kind of the attitude you're portraying, and maybe covering up a little bit of the vulnerability that you had inside. So I was fortunate in the first 4 years that I performed with a bat. But as a team, it was very much up and down as my leadership grew and South African cricket kind of grew as well.
I'm thinking back being 22, I didn't have enough bandwidth to keep myself on the field most games. I was sent off. I mean, I played 70 minutes pretty much for my first 3 seasons. So it's just incredible. I mean, to be captain on top of that. And when you're starting out a career, you want to make a success out of it. And there's a lot of pressure that goes, but you're also fearless. And obviously the 2 double hundreds you mentioned, Edgbaston, the one, was it? And Lords, not a bad record as a youngster to go. Youngest captain ever, Lords, beat Donald Bradman's record, 259, whatever it was, the highest foreigner score at Lords ever. But also, how do you manage, because there's senior players and they've been around, for a long time, and all of them, they've got their specific way. Polly wants to bowl from this side. Were you aware of all of that, or was there a big corp of senior players around you helping?
Is it the naivety of a 22-year-old? Kind of just...
Probably a little bit of everything, but Scally, thanks. I appreciate it. your cricket. You've at least got some ball skills, Jean. Doesn't have many. And you can play the game and appreciate it. But I think it was an element of all of that, maybe. But I think the one thing that I had is I've always had decent people skills, I think, and an ability to interact and talk and connect. I think the major stresses I would have is around the on-field stuff. Coaches and senior players would probably pick up elements off the field that I wasn't maybe quite attending to as a captain. And where captaincy in cricket is different is your captaincy is like your leader. You and the coach dovetail a lot in terms of when you're preparing, when you're playing, who leads, who takes over, how you drive conversation. Getting the best out of players often falls to the captain. And I think I was fortunate that, as you say, the senior group gave me a chance. I think scoring runs was key, but on the field, I remember Sean Pollock wasn't bowling well, and you think, well, I need to take him off here, but he's the #1 bowler in the world. He's our best bowler, So that trust in your decision making isn't there all the time, and that developed over time. You developed this to trust your tactical skills, and also having the confidence in your decision making. That's a huge thing. But I think the thing that saved me was that I scored runs, and I found a way to score runs and captain. But after 4 years, you need to find something more sustainable. You can't just keep taking on the world and trying to show everybody. You've got to grow and develop. And I think that I was fortunate that I actually had some of those hard conversations and growth times with myself, and that's why I was able to create the longevity.
Something that did happen after that series is Nasser Hussain had to step down.
Yeah.
Obviously a recurring theme, unfortunately, that you started in 2002.
Well, fortunately for South Africa.
Yeah. No, it wasn't the first English captain.
Nasser's quite an abrasive character. I think this story's been shoved in his face a fair amount, but he.
We can do it one more time. I'm sure he'll be watching.
Going to the toss. I mean, he introduced me to the mascot as Greg, and then we won the toss and batted, and I unfortunately went on to get 270 yard. And I remember him in the field as almost being acutely aware of, how like aggro he was in the field. Almost like at that point he had lost his team as a captain. Sometimes you see it. I'm sure you played against players where you felt, something's not right here. And I felt that in that first game as we were out. And, when you have a team on the ropes, you see these things. When a team's on top, you don't notice these challenges that they have. And I definitely noticed that. And we had them on the ropes, and the game ended up being rained out. And, I was naive, 22, and NASA resigns after the game. Where I was, it didn't really influence me because I hadn't played enough, I hadn't considered enough, I hadn't experienced enough to actually understand what he had gone through. In the next tour that we had in England, I think it was 2008, when Vaughan retired, because Vaughan is a great guy, he's got a great sense of humor. He was an excellent captain. He was really sarcastic and played the game very well and smart. And we started our captaincy kind of together, because next test he took over after NASA, and then we played against each other for a number of years. He built a great team in the early years. They won the Ashes in 2005. They were hugely successful. So when we beat them in 2008, like when he resigned, that I was a bit emotional about that. It was the first time that I considered, it's a tough world, and how hard it can be. And then Straussy on the last tour, I didn't mind getting one over the head boy, the private school boy from the UK. I mean, we had a few battles over the years, but it was nice to go back and win.
But I'm sure from a leadership point of view also, what stands out for me is the fact that, when you became the captain, it was almost leading by example, scoring runs, falling back on what you're good at, okay? Scoring runs, being a batsman, and then getting the respect, I suppose, of your teammates, right? And then saying, well, okay, this is what I'm doing, follow me. But like you say, you can't do that. I mean, you captained South Africa for 2003 till 2014.
11 years, Sean.
Say again?
11 years.
Yeah. Well, it depends. If you count 2003 as the first year, then it's 12 years.
Okay.
But a long time, and you can't just keep on doing that. So you have to evolve as a captain along the way, and kind of find your niche and the thing that makes you.
But you guys also had leadership roles. I mean, maybe a bit more experience, but you have probably evolved from the start if you think about to where you finished. Yeah. For me, it was about performing, and I didn't have the experience to be anyone else. I think I've been blessed with leadership, and leadership was always in my life, but you're a young man, And I think culturally, South African cricket was also not hadn't really grown into, where from, I would say, from about 2007 to 2014 was, we had an incredible side. Culturally, we were strong, diverse, we understood each other, our backgrounds, we stood for something, our value systems. Before that, we had a lot of abrasive characters as well. You think about the Andrew Halls, the Andre Nells, and the Ashwell Princes, a lot of tough characters. But as a team, we probably lacked a cohesive, team environment. And then as a leader, when you're inexperienced, you only know one way, so take people on, And I think it was from 2007 that I really did some hard yards to understand, what being South African captain was all about. It comes with political sponsors, your own team, what's your style of play, how do you get the best out of players, there's a whole dynamic to it. And I really understood that from 2007, and then was able to be a part of building the environment.
It's amazing that you say that initially you found on the field captaincy more difficult than actually the off the field stuff. My experiences right from the start was the off the field stuff is where I really got challenged. And the on the field stuff is more what you're used to, so you can deal with it. So it's interesting that you say that.
Also, we play a different game, eh? So you don't really, in a rugby game, have many opportunities to change the outcome of a game. Cricket's different. You can get isolated. You're out there. You go in with a game plan. A bowler doesn't bowl well. A few catches go down. Someone takes the batsman. Brian Lara moves the game away from you. You've got to come up with a plan right there and then. And the captain often has a big influence, I think, on where they go. Us, you don't have, because it's so fast and it's so manic. that we're a half time and maybe one break somewhere in the middle of the game, but that's about it.
Yeah, I've always loved over a beer chatting strategy with you guys, and it's always interesting to hear how you guys go about it, who you play off and how it works. But it's the same with cricket. I mean, a captain will decide basically the outcome of how obviously the bowlers need to deliver the ball and they need to lead the thing, but whether you're attacking, whether you're defensive, the mindset that your bowler goes in with is crucial to sort of where you end up. And often as a captain, you're trying to position bowlers against certain people. So it becomes a bit more of a one-on-one game, So from a tactical perspective, the captain holds a lot of the cards in cricket.
For me in cricket as well, when you were there, Biff, there's always someone that the team relied on. The team had to move to their strongest personality or their most abrasive personality. Mm-hmm. The fact that you scored, 1,500s in winning test matches, the most any captain's ever done, speaks words. But that day, SCG, when he came out with a broken hand, I'm sure when you broke your hand, you thought, that's my test match done. You're not taking any part in this.
No, I mean, I actually felt like Jean throughout that tour. My body was pretty much the same.
Broken.
I was played that whole season with the tennis elbow. And I was having cortisones just to get me through games. I ended up having surgery, as time went on. So, Jean, I know what you went through.
You do.
So we played the first test.
Was it your right
top hand? I don't know why my top hand went. My bottom hand was doing all the work. So we played the first test in Perth and we chased 414.
JP
Duminy gets 50, Avey gets 100, Hash gets runs, I got runs. And that sets the whole series up. And the thing about playing Australia in Australia is you're there for 2 months. You're under pressure. The media, the crowds, in 6 hours taking abuse. And if you win that first test, it kind of shifts onto Australia. So we were fortunate we managed to do that. Then you go to Boxing Day at the MCG, and I'll never forget that, walking out, 90,000 people on day one, amazing. Boxing Day. And it's like, yeah. And then we won. And that's probably one of the most iconic occasions to play the MCG on Boxing Day and then go New Year's in Australia, in Sydney. And we had one of the all-time great celebrations in that change room, because the change rooms in the MCG, I don't know I know rugby has been played there, I don't know if you guys, but the change rooms are massive there. And we had one of the great celebrations. They arrived with crates of beer and cigars and champagne. I think we only left there after midnight, so it was great. So then you get to Sydney, you 2-0 up, you've won in Australia for the first time, so you're on cloud 9.
Yeah.
And we prepared well for Sydney. And then, as you say, the wicket was very dry, very cracked. Australia won the toss. We toiled for a few days. And then we got off to a good start. And again, Mitchell, who did some damage to me over my career, broke my knuckle. So the next day, I went to the team doctor, and I didn't even come to the ground. We flew to Melbourne to see an elbow specialist that injected blood platelets into my elbows, because I was now going to be out for 6 weeks. So they wanted to try this treatment to see if it would work. Then came back, relaxed, and was getting ready to fly home after the game. Arrived at the ground, no gear, just my warm-up gear. And I think I had no intention of getting, but the game's got to get to a point where you can actually consider it, because you can't go bat for 3 hours. No. And the guys fought hard, and then it got to the point where it was like, okay, 15 overs left or something, I started finding myself in this space. The
adrenaline just keeps,
Now, the SCG change room is the opposite to the MCG. It's an old traditional change room. You squeeze in everywhere. So I walked to the back and have a few conversations, and physio was definitely not. Psychologist gave me best of both worlds. Mickey Arthur was go for it.
Obviously. That's what the coach did. I've just broken a rib. Inject it and go back.
I might lose my hand. Go.
It's fine.
So I walk in, and then in Neil Max in the back there, it's like, grab Callis's gear because it's probably the only one that's going to fit me. So I go looking in his bag, grab his whites, Paul Harris's jumper, and he's had a good lunch, big burger stain on it. And Neil Max starts helping me pad up, a box in thing, cast off. So I'm thinking, and I'm padded up, I've got a helmet on, I'm standing in the change room, and I'm like, the physio is putting this.
But you still haven't made the decision whether you're going or not.
But I'm best and ready to go. And now my hands, he's putting some extra padding on, tape on my hands, and I'm like, shit, I need to get some quiet space here. I don't know. Am I going?
It doesn't help that the television is not panning over.
I'm lying in the back.
Yeah.
I'm lying in the back with my heart's beating. Biggest fear was like, if they bounce me, what am I going to do? Because how am I going to get up to play? Am I just going to headbutt it or take it on the body?
Just front up.
Mitchell, he's only
bowling at 150 at that stage.
So I walk into the back and Callis is sitting there. I mean, Jean as well. He's very dry sense of humor for a quiet oak. And he looks at me, he bursts out laughing. And he says, chicks, big scars, glory lasts forever. So I kick him out there. Then 5 minutes later, I'm walking out to bat. And I mean, not once did I consider what I was doing or, you're trying to save a game. But yes, I can't go anywhere in the world without actually talking people through that situation. And
yeah, it's definitely like one of the most iconic moments. It's funny that often you play games too, and you never enter a game thinking, I'm going to break a rib or play with a broken hand. And those are always the ones that you think back now. I think, geez, how amazing was that? How brave was it?
You guys did it a lot. I mean, that was a way of life for you in rugby.
Yeah, but still, I think playing with broken ribs or whatever, and then you kind of get the injection plan, and you fight through it. But I think the fact that with a broken hand, it's you're constantly using that thing, so it's there all the time, and it gets into your mind. So it shows the fight.
The ball that he got bowled with, I think, would have got you anyway. It moved that much.
It was a cracking delivery, but I still have the odd nightmare because the ball before hit my bat and it actually went into the gap and I could have got off strike. Yeah. But the batting instinct in me was to keep the strike. And then Mackay and I got a bit confused and I ended up staying on strike and then he bowled the absolute cracker the next delivery.
But like fast bowlers are the equivalent of a real big bloke on a rugby field.
Yeah.
We play against some pretty big units. The Samoan team of 07 had the biggest unit I've ever seen. We've covered it in a previous episode. I mean, this guy was wider than this table. Stocky, 160 kilograms, running at 30 k's an hour. Butch James walked the one way, left me to take him. And I surfed him over Dan Rousseau, over Jean Smith, over half the Bok team, and eventually tripped him like legs in between, and we fell over. But, I mean, who was the scariest fast bowler? Because obviously you get spells where they're really quick, where you want to avoid them. And then you get guys, it's got a fear factor.
In the time I played, there was a few. I mean, like the fastest 2 bowlers in the world ever have been Bretley and Shah Bakhtar, and they unfortunately came along in my time period. But out of the 2 of them, Bretley was better to face because he had a nicer action. So you could see clean action, you could see the ball.
And no beamers.
And no beamers. And Shah Bakhtar used to take guard and used to look up and used to go, jeepers, how far back is he? And then you look back and the keeper's standing even further. So all you used to see is his head, its big middle parting running at you. And I don't know, in rugby, your adrenaline probably starts to pump and you get fired up and in cricket, it's about trying to calm that. So you're trying to clear your head out because if your adrenaline starts to pump, you go at balls, you
don't watch the ball.
You don't think clearly, and you almost try and predict. And if you're predicting, you're going to get yourself into troubles. It's crazy when you tell people that the best way to play a fast bowler is to trust your instinct, to allow your body to move.
Yeah.
But there's no better feeling than when you get a little tickle down a fine leg and
single.
And you just trot through and just stand at the other end. And
like, nothing like a single.
Go, buddy, it's good. Swinging a little bit. Just.
I mean, the one that I thought was so messy to face, because I saw him bowl AB de Villiers over the stumps once, was Sean Tate. Yeah. And he only played the short format, so it's not like he's going to charge at you for 10 or 15 overs. Yeah. But he had some serious gas and also messy because he slinged it from the back.
Because I'm one of the taller bats. I'm 6'4", so I didn't like the skinny bowlers because I found them sometimes you didn't really know whether to sway or duck or take them on, and that's when you start getting yourself into trouble. Sometimes the guys who get extra bounce, sometimes their length can be a bit short and you have a bit more time. Especially as a taller batter, I could get up on my toes. But those guys that were skinny, I never liked. I used to find myself getting into awkward situations, and I often then would decide, okay, if it's I'm going to take it on, just to try and I sometimes I don't know if it's in rugby, but as a batter, if the bowler knows you sometimes going to take him on, and he feels that pressure, you can win that battle a little bit and. Maybe he he decides not to bounce you for a few overs.
Well, there's been quite a few of the Australian bowlers as well. So you said, Brett Lee, Mitchell Johnson, Sean Tate. You spoke about the test matches in that series where you batted with a broken hand. But the one game that really stands out as well, ODI, is the 438 game, also against Australia. And I can remember watching that obviously Australia batting, scoring over 400, and then I'm like, Jesus, there's no chance we're getting back from this. And then we started batting, and the deeper we went into it, the more the belief just grew from a spectator point of view.
I lost faith, and like it was the same. It was the same day as the Cape Town cycle tour, or the Argus back in the day. It was exactly the same. And I watched them smash 438, Ponting make 150, and I booked myself a table. Me and my girlfriend then. What year was it? Yeah, before.
It was 05.
My girlfriend
05
back
or
then.
6.
My wife now at Wakamu. It's also not a restaurant anymore. And I was going through my second bottle of Sauvignon Blanc when this guy started messaging me, Graeme Smith, Herschel Gibbs. I'm like, what's going on? And then I caught all the traffic back from town. So, I missed half of it, man.
Yeah, it was a crazy day. I mean, I won the toss and bowled first. So when a team goes and gets 400, as a captain, there's a lot of questions coming your way. And I remember walking past Bouch and Herschel at one point saying, surely no, they can't get 400. And everyone was like a nervous giggle because it'd never been done before. And Ponting was smashing us everywhere. I mean, he played an incredible knock, and he was one of the all-time great players. Certainly one of the most competitive players I ever played against. And then you get into the change room, and I've got 15 minutes to pad up. We've just conceded 4-3-4, and now I've got 15 minutes to think about batting, what I say to the team. So I decided, okay, now I'm going to get myself ready. So I always used to change gear. So one of the methods I used to move from captaincy head to like opening the batting, because you don't have much time normally. So how do you switch off from captaining and then now become a batter? I used to change all my gear and put my batting stuff on. And as I'm padding up, getting ready, Callis comes up the stairs, sauntering, and he goes, guys, bowlers, what a great job. They're 15 runs short. So everyone bursts out laughing. It kind of breaks the ice. It was the perfect thing that we needed. And then Mickey Arthur gets out his whiteboard and he starts setting targets. Like he's looking, you can see him on his calculator, 20 overs, we've got to be here, 30 overs, 25 overs, this is where we've got to be if we're going to have a chance. And everyone's looking at these scores going, no, can't be, So I knew the key was to get off to a good start. And then we lost Putter early, which he says is probably his best innings for South Africa.
Get out the way.
And then myself and Hirsch got into a rhythm. And once we started going, it was just quite incredible. You kind of get going.
You feed off each other.
But, Hirsch, incredible 175. I mean, no deliveries, basically. And then I got 90 or 50. But Bouch and the way that he marshalled the tail, Johan van der Vaart, Roger Telemakis, even Mackay's single down. I never watched that. I was sitting in the change room just going, no ways. And when I see the replay now, I still get scared because it's from leg stump down the third man.
Slicing.
And obviously, Mickey Lewis went for 110 runs and he's 10 overs.
I just couldn't believe that Ricky kept bowling him. He just kept bowling him, just kept getting pounded.
Yeah.
But it was a bowler's graveyard that day. 434. We had one of the great celebration actually. Santon Sun Hotel, old school bar downstairs. Us and the Aussies ended up after our change room time getting together in the bar. And Bouchie's got, when he drinks too much, he gets quite a heavy head. So we were all watching him walk. It must have been around midnight down to this glass lifts.
Yeah, it was like the golden one.
Yeah. And we watched him get in and he went to hit the button and he missed the button, fell on the floor, and we all watched him go up and down for the next 30 minutes until Brett Lee went and fetched him and took him to bed.
But that's fantastic to hear. That even though it's a fierce rivalry, the beauty of sport is that you can be so competitive on the field, but have the respect off the field and still be able to have a drink together. And I suppose from their point of view, give you a tap on the back and say, well done. Next time we'll also fight back hard again, but for now, enjoy it. Yeah, it's good to hear.
It's not always there. I mean, there are teams that you get on really well with. It's hard on the field and you can have a beer afterwards. I'm sorry, in cricket, there's a lot of different cultures as well. But I would say that out of most of the teams, I'd say Australia and New Zealand were the teams we got on best with, and that was always the case. England, maybe more individually rather than as a team that the guys get together. I mean, it always felt a little bit more forced when you were around England. That it was part of more of a box ticking exercise than you actually could sit and enjoy each other's company. I'm sure you guys found
Same.
different relationships with different teams over the years, but I would say New Zealand definitely the best, and then the Aussies as well, where you'd play hard and then were able to share a beer afterwards.
Best innings, Biff. So I don't know if these stats are correct, but just your batting average, okay, throughout your career. Test matches, 48. ODIs, 38, just under 38. T20s, just under 32. It's quite amazing.
Oh, thanks, Johnny. Yeah, I mean,
it just speaks of a world-class player, and I think sometimes as South Africans we don't value the quality that we have in our own country. You know,
sure.
We celebrate others more. I mean, those are astonishing figures for a batsman over such a long period of time. But which kind of innings would stand out as your favourite?
you know, when you play for 14 years or whatever it was, there's so many that you can, I mean, without those 2 double hundreds in the beginning, who knows what sort of career I would have had. So I can't move away from those. Got 154 at Edgbaston on a last day wickets where we were like, I think 90 for 5, and myself and Bouch, first AB and then Bouch, put on a partnership to chase 260. And that was the first time we won in a big country in 08. You know, we beat England in England, and then we went to beat Oz in Oz, and that kind of kick-started South African cricket into the next level. And that innings, under just the situation, you know, the crowd, the pitch, I think for me will always kind of sit as one of my best innings I've played. One day cricket, I felt that towards the end I kind of faded away a little bit. I feel like I could have done more there, but I don't know if it was captaining too long or needed a break from the game or whatever, but you know, faded away a little bit towards the end. But yeah, I mean, if I think back to when I was a youngster with, you know, different grip, you know, when I started playing professionally, I mean, every time I played, someone would talk about the way I held the bat. You know, it was like, got to change him, you got to change him. And where I ended up in my career and the performances is like, for me, it was, I had sort of probably the more mental, I understood my strengths and weaknesses, which is key, but more of a mental side to the game than maybe just an incredible talent like an AB or a Jock, or, you know. So I like to say I did it ugly and I was effective.
Right.
A lot of runs. When they bowl at your knee, it's going through mid-wicket. It didn't go anywhere else. The knee was the favourite spot.
It was the favourite spot. I'm heading down Jean's.
I struggle with my knees.
Because I did get out LBW a few times as well, so I have got a few dents there. But
listen here, and I mean, we've got great cricketers. We've had great sides over the years. Obviously, World Cups. You do the best you get. You get to a World Cup. You had a proper chance in the Windies, very good side. You know, unfortunately for the Proteas, just not happening our way. This last World Cup was obviously a disappointment.
Yeah.
We were never at the races really. But the insights, the feelings, being involved in World Cups, you think the Proteas have got a chance in the future?
Jeez, I hope so. I mean, this 2020 World Cup, I thought we could build a really nice team to go and do well there. One, you've got to have the players to compete at a World Cup. I think in the early years, we played in that era where Australian cricket was just so dominant. I mean, I think they won 3 in a row, 99, 03 and 07. They were just such a powerhouse team. They had all bases covered in any conditions, you know, great spinners, batters, bowlers, and were so dominant. There was the one that hurts me was the T20 World Cup in 09 in England. We were the best team by far in that T20 World Cup, and we lost to Pakistan in a spinning wicket in the semi-final. It was just, you know, we just got stuck chasing a total. So that's the one I believe hands down we should have won. The other ones you can kind of debate in your head. You know, you can say the World Cup in India, you know, were we good enough? I don't know. You know, did you have all bases covered? But yeah, we're looking to hire a rugby coach for the next one.
Well,
get some of your guys.
A successful career is not just defined by World Cups, and I think you know, again, if we look at your stats, so your 100th Test match you played on your 32nd birthday.
At the Oval in England.
That must have been so special. And also, I want to add to that. You know, the only player to have captained the country for more than 100 Test matches.
Yeah.
So we are so grateful that you came on the show.
He actually took the phone call and came to the show.
Well, I was a bit nervous coming here, to be honest with you. I mean, I much prefer having a beer. I know the banter that goes on, so being in front of cameras is scary. But yeah, Jean, I mean, it's hard to. I mean, there's so many tough times. I probably could have been fired a number of times. Probably thought about resigning a number of times over the years, and you kind of get into it. And I think I was fortunate we were able to build such a strong team, and then I feel like the best version of myself as a leader from sort of 07, 08 to when I retired as Test captain. And you've got to keep scoring runs. I think that was the toughest part as well, is captaining and then opening the batting. So you're always in it. You're always in the cauldron. And I think that took its toll at times with me, the stresses and pressures. I mean, there's sometimes that you went out to bat and you need runs, because as a captain you can't hide. You've got to go to the press conference afterwards. You've got to front to the media. Everyone asks you about your form. So sometimes that will to just deliver. Jacques often described himself as a duck on water, really calm on the outside, but underneath, flapping. There are moments in that where you've got to just fight your way through some tough times. I remember after the 2011 World Cup, when we lost, it was took immense amount of abuse. Fighting back from that was tough. But I still only made it to 33.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, do you think you retired too early? You were only 33, 34
Yeah,
years
I mean,
old.
if I'm honest, 6 or 7 months later, I was ready to, I think I was refreshed and ready to go. And I think I would have liked a career without leadership as well. So whether it was just playing in the test side or whatever, but not actually having to lead and just play as a batter for a period of time, maybe slide down the middle order, you never know. But once I'd made the decision, I mean, it was also a tough time in my life personally. I was going through divorce. My daughter, when the test match I retired in, I would go to the hospital in the morning because she was burnt with hot water. And I'd spend in the morning with the surgeons cleaning her and and then I'd have to go and play. So it was almost like the emotional state that I was in was really bad. And then you're playing against Australia and everything just overwhelmed. And then I was going through a divorce after that. And then it becomes about your kids, and so I think in the end, I made a decision that being a cricketer, the amount of time you spend on the road is huge. Guys are traveling 200 days a year minimum. So, you've got all these decisions to make. I don't regret it, if that's what you're asking.
No, and I don't think anyone.
But I certainly think I could have played a bit more.
Yeah. No one can ever fault you for choosing your family, and I think that those are sometimes the difficult decisions. The families, they're part of your life, but they sacrifice a lot as well. And sometimes you just get to that stage where that decision needs to be made. So, well done for that.
Buffy, we saw the Solidarity Cup, and you find yourself in a new role, Director of Cricket South Africa. Yeah. Probably your toughest innings lying ahead. Yeah. Talk me through the challenges. Solidarity Cup, by all means, was a massive success, raised over 3 million rand for selected charities. What's the immediate future looking like? We know T20 World Cup's been postponed. When are we seeing live cricket, franchise cricket, international cricket?
Yeah, it's carnage out there at the moment. I mean, not only from COVID, but many other things within South African cricket. It's been a challenge even before I got into the position. I'm not sure most of those challenges have gone. But I think the goal, you get involved because you have a spirit for the game. You've invested a lot of time and effort in the game, and you want to get South African cricket strong. But I mean, with the admin role becomes a lot of other stuff that maybe you didn't foresee. And it's a very corporate role as well. So I guess your goal is always wanting to put South African cricket back on the map and get the side performing well. It's faded away over the years. But then COVID hits as well. We appointed a new management team. We trialled a lot through the summer, gave a lot of youngsters opportunity. We beat Australia at the end of the summer in South Africa, which kind of, makes you feel that, one, you're starting to find some players with ability. You're starting to get somewhere. You've got a pool of players now that you think you can work with. You've got a whole plan for the winter and then COVID hits and everyone goes on lockdown. So you got to constantly keep reassessing, and our goal in the initial period was to put a team out that could go win the T20 World Cup, which was meant to happen in October. So we looked at that. I felt that we could put a really good team out, but now that's all gone in the short term. IPL is the next major event in cricket, and the Solidarity Cup was kind of myself and Paul Harris chatting and trying to think how we could become the first live sport event back in South Africa. How could we, instead of just being grateful that it wasn't, our season, we were kind of out of season rugby, football were taking grenades. How could we create a game? And that's how the conversation started, and it grew. And then eventually we were able to be that first live sport event in South Africa, raised a lot of money for charity, and launched a new format of three teams playing against each other. So it was great, but it didn't come without its complications from, COVID, medical, having to get the Minister of Sport and the team and the NRCDs to sign off plans. But going forward, Scully, domestic season is meant to start 1 November.
Yeah.
And internationally, we've managed to push most of our stuff to next year. We were meant to have 3 T20s against India, which is a big loss for us. I don't think that's going to happen now. It might hopefully happen sometime next year. But England are scheduled to come here towards the end of November. And at the moment, that's our kind of first international in Sri Lanka come. And then it's really busy for the guys. But everyone's reassessing because of COVID. No one knows what's going on. When the border's going to open, when we're going to fly. It's just all these things.
And the 3TC, just the format, it's an exciting format. It's quick. It's, a lot of kind of moving parts all the time. But what was lacking, the crowd. So a crowd plays such a big part in an event like that. And now suddenly, unfortunately for the circumstances, but you've got no crowd. So I think add that to it as well. And there's just more happening.
We're targeting rugby. I think we hear different stories every time, but maybe end of August was really, I think that's out. So maybe now mid-September, I think we're targeting, but it's also going to be without crowds. And, you just lack massive. It's like the Premiership when it kicked back up. I mean, I know you love Liverpool.
Yeah. No, I'm very happy about that. I mean, I was very happy to see the Premiership start again, so Liverpool could get to the trophy.
But like the Aotearoa League in New Zealand's got crowds, and we watch it in the morning. Like, how nice is it?
You can never replace it. I mean, the Premier League have sort of recorded past games and have that sort of hum and noise and fan in the background. I mean, there's guys that are producing these noise apps now that you can beat crowd noise through these apps into the stadiums. But it's never going to be the same. I mean, having played in front of massive crowds and that adrenaline and being a part of that occasion.
And visually.
And visually. It's just, how do you replace it? You can't. But the sport is so reliant on broadcast rights. I mean, that's the big money in sport. So you've got to get the television product out and try and do the best that you can. I mean, having seen England and West Indies play now, I mean, the cricket looked just as competitive. But I mean, when Stuart Broad got his 500th Test wicket, and he held up the ball to.
He's also wearing a bandana.
Who's he looking at?
Or the trophy presentation at the end,
Well, the reason he does that is actually trying to find someone. He's trying to find a cameraman to actually wave at.
I know. Broadie, it wouldn't surprise me, but I mean, an incredible feat from him. But I mean, she's crazy. I mean,
we just want live sports, and at least cricket provided a bit of live sport now. Look, this interview has become extremely serious. One thing I want to just point out is, as you know, Schala got a cricket contract out of school, right?
Yeah.
He was a much better opener than you, but also Schalk bats left-handed, bowls right-handed. So do you. You batted left-handed, bowled. Luckily, you didn't bowl too much, but right-handed. Both of you play golf left-handed.
That's it.
But you're both right-handed.
Right-handed.
That's amazing. Why is that?
There's a lot of theories about it. I mean, I personally I think that's the way I picked up the bat. I mean, the right hand always went on top.
Why are you looking to punch?
You batted. The way you batted, it seemed like you should have batted right-handed.
Well, no, actually, I feel like that about my golf now. Actually, to be honest with you. I always picked up something 2 hands left-handed. I don't know why, and then 1 hand.
So when we play golf together, me and Biff, us left-handers seem to tear up on the same side of the tee box. But say, for example, Biff goes first. His divot is 45 degrees out to the right, and then I put my ball down, and then I actually have to move it because Biff is hitting it. I'm like, how did that end in the fairway? Your divot should be going straight.
It defies nature, really. My golf swing, it can be dark days out there.
I hate golf because people say that if you've got ball skills, then naturally you should be able to play golf. And I'm like, I feel offended when people say that because I'm not good at golf.
My worst is when you get invited to these events and you stand up on the first tee and everyone comes to watch you because they're expecting you to belt it 300 down the middle with a draw. And I probably haven't played in the last 3-4 months. I'm standing there thinking, please just get it off the tee box.
And you're looking at that cameraman, 45 degrees, about 30 meters to the right.
Aiming to him.
There's a massive target right on his forehead. I'm going to smash him in the head.
So, I mean, but I know my problem is cricket. The movements are different. So I come over the top like cricket and, oh, man, it's messy. But I do enjoy playing with you guys because he's got a bit of a big draw, but you and I, we're good competition because you also very.
And we've got great personalities.
You're very bad.
Have you seen the only... Buff
gets definitely worse than me. We should go play.
Buff gets onto the green and putts right-handed.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
I just get the job done, man. That's all.
Graeme, we've got an element of our show that's a bit of a competition. So it's called the Use It or Lose It, Don't Laugh Challenge. How it works is I'm gonna tell you. I'm just gonna read a couple of lines or tell a joke, and then you're not allowed to laugh.
Yeah.
We've got
There's a scoring system, but John basically just awards it as he goes.
This element of the show is becoming worse and worse every single week.
To be honest, it's the worst. I mean, it's the worst part of the show by far. But anyway,
that's your idea.
Yeah.
So try not to laugh. Okay.
Can we put our mask on?
No. But also, if you don't laugh at any of the jokes, then, I mean, it's just awkward. But sometimes the viewers like that. Okay, so the first one, you got to concentrate. You really take it in visually, try and see it.
John, but I really want you... last week, your delivery was kind of...
Was it not good?
It was stale. I want some energy, in your delivery. Okay. Maybe that helps.
Are you ready?
You're wearing an Adidas top.
Have you noticed that we're having some Red Bull here? But Graeme decided to go for this sugar-free. Obviously, lockdown's been good for him. What do you call a pile of cats? A meountain. No. Okay. You're laughing. Okay. First one.
That's actually the best one I've heard for a month.
Have you done some research with these?
Of course. And all the viewers, they actually send in jokes. We've got a massive following. David Hasselhoff walked into a bar and ordered a drink. "It's a pleasure to serve you, Mr. Hasselhoff," says the bartender. "Just call me Hoff," he replied. "Sure," said the bartender. "No hassle." Hasselhoff. Okay? Yeah, you guys
the cameraman's gone. You got someone.
Okay. We're going to be doing 5. On the third one. Graeme's the first guest that's more awkward than Schalk for the jokes. What do you call Santa when he's on a tea break? Santa Paws.
Jeepers. Flipping out, Johnny.
We got 2 more.
You've been spending too much time in lockdown by yourself.
What do you call a fly with no wings?
A walk.
Oh, damn. Which James also knew all the answers.
That's a point, by the way. Yeah, must be a point.
You're winning at the moment. Okay, last one. This is the decider. Okay, 1,000,000 points on this one. What breed of dog can jump higher than buildings? Any dog, because buildings can't jump. Not.
No, that was poor.
That was horrific.
You better ask your viewers for better jokes for you, because
I
think by episode 10 you're going to cancel this segment.
Can we just ask the viewers directly, please? Yeah. I mean, for John, send him jokes. He needs a lot of them.
Because he needs to make it to episode 10. If he gets to episode 10 still telling jokes.
I know I'm going to be here for episode 10, but we're not inviting you back. Craig Smith.
Johnny.
That concludes episode 6 of Use It or Lose It.
No, thank you guys. And can I say, you guys have talked up my career, but it's a pleasure to sit here with the two of you. 2 icons in the game and great personalities as well, and good people. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, Buffy, thank you, man. We watched you over many, many years. I mean, and not only that, we've got a great relationship off the cricket pitch, in the pub predominantly, around the golf course. You're one heck of a nice guy, and good luck with the future endeavours. And especially this year, trying to get live cricket back on television for us.
Yeah, it would be good.
Thanks, partner.
Yeah, thanks, Biffy, and thanks to you, to all of you that that viewed the show. As you know, we try and speak to some of our teammates, some of the friends in other sports that we've met over the years. And tonight we had an absolute legend of South African cricket, of South African sport, a leader in his own right, an amazing record as leader of the Proteas. The task he has now is to lead South African cricket into a different direction as well. But the task that you have is to follow us on Facebook. What's the other two, Scalla?
Not always too clued up with this, but I might have this subscribe to YouTube, and you got to like us on.
Follow us on Instagram.
We're getting this right, are we?
That's
Yeah,
it.
that's it. Whatever. Do your thing on the social media.
Do
Obviously,
the
me and John.
Instagram, YouTube. What's the other one? Facebook thing. Do it. Okay.
Just do it.
Thanks for joining us. That's it.